I wanted to say thank you from the very bottom of my heart. That's my dog you hear in the background. Sometimes he'll be in here tripping, but he got up and ran to the door because somebody was outside shooting. Now that makes me concerned if I should be having my stuff loaded and ready to go. But anyway, I wanted to thank you from the bottom of my heart because today when I was at work, I was doing my job. I wasn't able to be a cashier from the beginning of the shift. I had to start with taking stuff back that belongs back on the shelves. And I heard a Cashapp sound. So I dipped down one of these lines that didn't have anybody walking. It's usually an empty aisle. And I looked at the Cashapp and I started crying. I started crying because I didn't expect that from you. I thought you were mad at me because I was pressuring you to go to beauty school and talking about it to other people. And the reason that I wanted you to go to beauty school is to be able to empower your own life. And I felt that having I know you went to makeup school, but I don't know if there's a license involved with that or if you're certified, you know. I want you to be certified in everything that you can be certified for this reason. Many times I've gone to, and I'm speaking to all the other people who don't know who I'm talking to. It's not your business. If you want to bless me, bless me. If you don't, just listen to the story. But many times in the past that I've gone to different cities to live, someone reported me to state board. When I first got to Oklahoma, I remember a lady with a beauty supply. And I purposely shopped at her beauty supply because it was black. I had some trouble at the Asian beauty supplies because some of the African Americans that I guess hadn't made their advertisements and put them in the store was mad because I was making mine and putting them all over the place like a beast, as I do in every place that I go. Even on this job I'm on right now, I take 50 of these to work every day. And if I come home with 20 of them, I put another 30 in my pocket because I'm purposely trying to get somebody to come and get their hair done. And I'm letting every single one of them know, if you don't have an iPhone, you need to email me, blah, 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 because my phone is off. But in Oklahoma City, I purposely went out of my way to go to this lady's African-American owned black beauty supply. And she turned me into state board. And she gave me the most grief about doing hair in their town with no license. And I'm going out of my way to spend my money at her place. Then I move on to, and Oklahoma City was kind of patient with me They let me stay in that town doing hair, but they started pressuring me to take the test, and I just really didn't feel like doing it. So when that storm came through and I was sitting in the bathtub with my son trying to call 911, and they said, we're in the tub too. That's when it was time to go. And I wasn't really welcome there with the businesses that I'm supposed to be working with. I thought I was supposed to go to the Asian Beauty Supply and buy some hair at a discounted rate. But all they want to give you is 10% off. And I never thought that was enough. But anyway, I thought that going to the African American Beauty Supply was the right thing to do because I was lifting up her business. She could lift mine up by taking my flyers. But you know what? I believe that she was jealous of me going to the other location where her husband was working, and she thought that I had some liking for him. And I didn't. I was new to the city and just trying to start a business. So enough about OKC. I moved on to Denver. I stayed up in the mountains for a little while doing dreadlocks. I tried to get into a salon there, and she wouldn't allow me into her salon up in the mountains. I moved down into the city. Probably a year into it, someone reported me to the state board. I didn't have a license there. And it really hurt. I didn't know who it was. I suspected African Americans because when you go into town doing hair without a license, they feel like you are stepping on their toes. But usually they style hair. Usually they relax, and at that time was doing a lot of gluing on of hair, which I do not do. I prefer not to do use the glue. So not bond. I prefer not to use bonding glue, but I will do fusion, which is way different. But anyway, a lot of the stylists now in Denver, that's the first and only place I made what I called a team. But we all fell apart at some point. I went to jail over my husband there. And I had to sit in jail for 30 days. Actually, they got me down from 30 days to about 9 days or 10, something like that. So I had to sit there for 10 days. Within 10 days time, by the time I came back, I didn't have a salon. And the people that I depended on the most disappeared. One, to go open her own salon and take a heap of my business with her. She didn't have a license either. But when the state came to seek me, I went and found me an African American doctor, went to state board and created a braider's license. And fought that one until finally I gave up and left. The next place, one of the next places I would go to would be Austin. Actually, back home, because I had a shop in Renton for a little while, and that was a few trials and tribulations, which is where I met you. And I was really proud of you and the other stylists that was working with me, braid artists that was working with me. And to see you guys go as far as I've seen you go, even though I wanted you to go to beauty school. But to see you work for different companies growing out of the Seattle area. Seattle has a long history of fashion industry. And to see you be a part of that fashion industry in any kind of way is nice. That's very nice. Back in the day, I used to be part of different types of events that would take place in Seattle back when I felt we were welcome. But I don't really feel like we're welcome there. And that's what scares me about not having a license. Because at some point when they decide to change up in some kind of way and do something different, the reason you want to be licensed is because you want to have your freedom. See, working for someone can be great, especially when you have a nice name behind you or a nice name that you're working for, or I'm kind of slow with my words because I'm at a loss for words. But I know some of the names that used to be in Seattle, and that some of the names that are there now, designing clothes and selling clothes and doing photo shoots. And Seattle has every city has its own fashion systems. And to see you be part of the systems is very nice. And for me to have had a part in you going in that direction makes me feel proud. And you know, one of my proudest days is when the other braider called me from college and said, yeah, I'm over here braiding hair and having fish fries and this and this and that. And I didn't know where you were at that time, but I see you online and it's nice. You look beautiful in your pictures. And sometimes I think back to when you and I went over to do Mikey Moore's hair. For those of you who don't know who Mikey Moore is, he was with the Phoenix Sun. Then he came to the Seattle Supersonics. Then he moved on to New York Knicks. Okay. But me and this young lady that I'm speaking to went to his hotel room and did his hair. I didn't do his hair, but I wasn't going to send her over there by herself. I took her there and did his hair and basically left. You know, I felt like it would be inappropriate for me to send her over there by herself. But because I knew him from him coming to my shop, it was kind of funny how we interacted in my shop. He brought his cousin with him, and they laughed and joked about me putting the floor down myself with my own hands and knees. And for some reason, they really thought that was funny. And I didn't think that was funny because my knees was hurting like hell from doing that job. But anyway, I think about that sometimes. And I think about, you being inspired from those times to work in the fashion industry. Makes me feel really good. Makes me feel really proud. But the reason I wanted you to have your license is because I wanted you to be able to have complete freedom. Freedom is when you walk into a town. Yes, you might start from scratch and have to take a job somewhere and scratch and scrape to get on your feet. But when you get on your feet, then you can be a boss and you can hire some people and you can take out loans and keep your place going. And who says it has to be a brick and mortar? Shoot, it could be a RV these days. But you would have your freedom. And no one could put you out of business. And no one could come up with some BS on that one. But I went on from there, from that time with you, and went on to Ohio. Now, Michigan, I did not have a license. I don't really believe anyone called state board, but by the time I got to Ohio and I was hit really in Michigan, where I was in Flint, I did not desire to stay there long term. It was a really poor, raggedy town, and I gave up within months. I was good. And I packed my stuff and went to Columbus, Ohio, where as soon as somebody would get mad, and I know this was an American person, she turned my ass in. But it was sad because she went and bought some hair that was not efficient for the style she was trying to wear, and she was trying to force me to still give her that style. And because she bought that hair on sale, she couldn't take it back, so she wanted to use it no matter what. And I'm like, I decide what I do and how I do it. If you couldn't go over there and buy the right kind of hair, because at the time I wasn't selling hair myself. I'd gone in and out of selling hair, but I really needed a vendor from China. And I didn't start hearing anything about China until I got basically to Texas. And it's sad to say, but even in Austin, someone called state board on me, not once, but twice. And it didn't shock me. And I feel that it was Americans. And the second time that they called state board on me, it was when my mother was sick and I was trying to get home. And so I told state board, I said, let me tell you something. I'm going to do what I have to do. My mother is sick. I'm going to do what I'm doing until I leave here. I don't care what you do. I didn't care. And I never heard from them people again. But whoever made that call twice on me, whoever was watching me so much that they called on me twice, all I can say is, bitch, fuck you. Because the next time I climb to where I'm going, it's not just for Houston. It's for the world. You won't be able to stop that. Now, when I got back to Washington State, which is where I saw you again, you were finishing your makeup class. I was fighting with the state. I was begging the state, do something about all this braiding without a license. And I'm not just talking about Africans. I don't have no real beef with Africans until they show me they have a problem with me. And apparently here lately, a lot of them do have a problem with us, unfortunately. But I remember back when I was in beauty school and I was braiding a lot of Africans' hair before I ever left Seattle. I was living in Bellevue, driving all the way to Seattle to braid Africans' hair. I remember one lady who was in school. She stayed with her husband, trials and tribulations of leaving South Africa, coming all the way to America, just for him to turn into a super asshole and leave her for, I think, a Japanese woman. So he wanted to basically have 2 wives. And the first wife got mad, moved out, and decided, I don't want to be married to him. I don't want to be with him. And the only way that she could get her true freedom from him is to go to school and get some type of certification, some type of license, some type of education, so that she would be free from him. Because as long as he was paying all the bills, he could come over to her house and kick her new boyfriend out. And every time he came over to visit, he would whoop that man's tail. He was from Africa also. Finally, he had me to come do the children's hair at his house. And the Japanese woman came downstairs, and I bet she was thinking, oh, he done went and found a 3rd wife, thinking that it was me. I wouldn't tolerate none of that bullshit. But that woman from Africa, we sat up and laughed and giggled and had all kinds of stories. She told me about how crazy that man was. And there was other women in Bellevue that would get their hair done for me. And I would go to their house and do their hair. But somewhere along the line, there began to be a split between the cultures, as if we can't relate to each other anymore. And what's sad about that is to see the government give them a thumbs up on working without licensing. If you and I built our salons the same way they built their salons, guess what? They'll come into our business and tell us we can't use combs, we can't use pomades, and that we're doing too much. But you know, when you go to an African shop and get your hair braided, somebody gonna pick up a comb that hasn't been sanitized, part your scalp with it, braid your hair with some fingers that have not been washed, and use some pomade, some product, something to slick that hair down. But if you go and look at the law, the only people that have to live by those laws is African Americans. So I was fighting with the state of Washington, begging them to make the system fair. African Americans don't know that when they walk into unlicensed shops, that the state really don't care. They're shopping, what's the words that they use? You're shopping at your own risk, something like that. That's what they said to me, because I was constantly down there fighting, trying to make it fair, making a list of not just Africans but Americans too that was braiding without licenses and using pomade and combs. And if you dare to weave hair and take money out of the salons, I came for you. But it's sad because The young girls that were working for me in Washington the last time I was there, all of them could only see the side of the Africans working without a license. Now the Africans are going to become well-paid nurses, doctors, and anything else they want to become. So why couldn't they become certified braid artists? That's the question I was asking for a long time. How could a braider with no license go and become a nurse, then look back and condone that behavior? Because any nurse knows sanitation. And this is why I wanted you to have a certain amount of freedom. Because when I hold my license in my hand, I have freedom that no one can come and take away. No matter how many times they call state board on me, I will go right down there to that office and fight for my rights. But I realize going forward from here, I don't really want a salon. Right now, this is just survival. This is just me trying to make it. I need a different, I don't want to be bonded to a building that's not mine. And I cannot see that making sense. It's not making sense. That's why I wanted that well put together RV. And if I have to sell every secret I got in my life, I want freedom to move which way I need to move, so that I'll be able to bless somebody like you blessed me today. You blessed me today. And I appreciate that. I thank you for that. So, I know people are wondering who I'm talking to. It's not your business. But I want you to know you blessed me, and it touched my heart. And I had to clean my face up before anybody could see me at work. But I was able to make some things happen. And all I can say now is just thank you. But now I'm kind of over telling you to go get a license. I would tell you to go get a Google certification, baby. And take your time if you need to take your time. But a Google certification may take you further than a cosmetology license. Because yeah, I see some beautiful hairstylists out there making money, but it's hard to pay taxes and it's hard to pay all the bills. And it's just really hard to come up like you really need to. So I don't want that for you either. I want you to live your best life. And there's going to be some changes coming in this world. I want you to keep up with the changes. That's why I said Google certification. And I love you and thank you so much.